Today is Friday, May 1st, 2020, and this is Evening Jesus. Tonight we wrap up our conversation on the topic of time. Now, I think tonight's conversation is particularly fascinating because of who we are going to get our advice from. His name is Solomon, and he reigned as king of Israel 3,000 years ago. His reign was in the midst of what's known as the Golden Age in the history of Israel. And Solomon was brilliant. He was an architect, he was a scientist, he understood wealth, he understood power, his family tree had all the right credentials, right? And the authors of Scripture call him the wisest man who has ever lived. And people would come from all over the world, the known sort of ancient world, to ask Solomon difficult questions because he was so wise. And with all of this wisdom, Solomon decided that he was going to plumb the depths of humanity and answer the question once and for all, what is life all about? What is the purpose of life? And he does so in an ancient text we know today as the book of Ecclesiastes. And here's what he writes. Meaningless, meaningless, says the teacher, utterly meaningless. Everything is meaningless. What has been will be again. What has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun. Listen, he says, I've explored everything. I've learned everything. I've seen everything. I've done everything. And my conclusion is meaningless, meaningless. Everything is utterly meaningless. But then he elaborates a little bit and helps us out. It says, listen, it's just going to happen again. It just goes around and round. And what has been done will be done again, right? Do you think you've done something special? No, you're just doing what somebody else has done. Just a more modern version, right? And guess what? As cool and as wonderful as what you've done is, somebody's going to come along and they're just going to do it later, and they're probably going to do it better, and everybody's going to have forgotten what you did anyway. Here's the next thing Solomon says. The race is not to the swift or the battle to the strong, nor does food come to the wise or wealth to the brilliant or favor to the learned, but time and chance happen to them all. In other words, here's the reality that you've experienced, that under the sun there is randomness that just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't always make sense. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't work out, right? There's too much unpredictability under the sun. Now, if all of this is kind of depressing you, just wait, because Solomon's point throughout the book is to actually get us to ask a question. And it's this: is there a category beyond under the sun? It's like, listen, great, Solomon, I get it. It's all meaningless, nothing's new, and it's all pretty random. But is there something more? And Solomon, if we have time to sort of go through the entire book of Ecclesiastes, what we'd find is that his answer is yes. Look at what he writes. Here's just an example. He, speaking of the divine, he has made everything beautiful in its time. Listen, Solomon says, listen, in the midst of the meaningless, in the midst of the randomness, in the midst of things don't make sense, and every once in a while, Solomon says, we stumble upon something that's so beautiful, and at that moment we go, oh, well, look at that, right? That makes me think there must be more to this life than this life. We stumble into a relationship, or we see something, or we hear something, or somebody shows us something, and everything else sort of goes out of focus. And it's like, wow, look at that, right? That kind of makes me believe there might be something more than just this life. And again, if we have time, we could trace Solomon's thinking throughout his writing, right? It says, listen, I know what it looks like, but there's something more. There's something bigger that you can be a part of that adds value and meaning and purpose to all the seemingly meaningless we're surrounded by. That we're to live as our days are numbered, but live as if your days are numbered by God, who has given you purpose beyond what you see and experience under the sun. Live as if your days are numbered and gain a heart of wisdom and leverage that wisdom for a purpose that goes beyond simply what you can see, goes beyond simply the bookends of your short life. Hey, thanks so much for spending the week with me, and I hope you'll join us this Sunday as we wrap up our teaching series, 3 Questions Everybody Has About God. See you later.